Good afternoon, patrons, and welcome to the, nominally at least, October Patroncast. Yeah, this one's late and there's good reason. I think I said at the end of last month's Patroncast, this is the Patroncast I'm going to be stressed. And yes, I am. This is the stressed Patroncast right here. Like, the most stressful thing you can pretty much do as a YouTuber is have, well, it's not that I don't have backlog, I have loads of, like, backlog videos. The problem is that there's so many games coming out that I'm getting review code for fairly last minute, and Bethesda, of course, just changed their policy, so now they only, as a principle, give out review code last minute, so that's helpful. So that's going to get even worse, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like, for example, today I was recording Tyranny, which is Obsidian's kind of isometric fantasy RPG thing. It's kind of like, it's not really the sequel to Pillars of Eternity, but it's kind of like, you know, same sort of thing, if you like, as I understand it. So I got that like a few days early, and I just got around to playing that today, and I'm not actually allowed to put that out until tomorrow, so that's going to be tomorrow's video. But yeah, I kind of, you know, I've just been recording that today for tomorrow, which is very, very stressful. I haven't got Dishonored 2 yet, obviously Bethesda's new policy. If I get a review code of Dishonored 2 at all, which I should do, hopefully, that won't come until, like, Thursday, so I'll be working on Thursday for videos for Friday onwards, which is stressful. And I've got a backlog of videos that I've recorded that I haven't edited yet, which is unfortunate. Like, the Dishonored 1, I'm going to do the whole of Dishonored 1 before Dishonored 2 comes out, damn it. The problem is I haven't actually edited some of that yet. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. And next week's Civilization has been recorded but not edited yet. So I need to figure out where I'm going to edit those as well. So, yes, very, very busy at the moment. But it has been a very good month, actually. It's been a very good month indeed. Like, Dishonored's done really well. Like, I expected Skyrim was going to be the one that did well, and Skyrim did really, really well, and Dishonored didn't do as well as Skyrim. But, like, you know, Skyrim actually really impressed me. Skyrim impressed me so much that, like, I'm thinking of bringing up a series on that. Slightly, I don't know. But, yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll find a way to get that into circulation sooner rather than later. I was thinking of just kind of leaving that until maybe Mass Effect 2 was done, but I'd like to do something a little bit sooner. So I'm not sure if, like, the time is coming where I might move Fallout 4 down to one video a week, and then we'll do, like, yeah, one video a week of Fallout 4, one video a week of Fallout New Vegas, and then probably into the original Fallout, I guess, is most likely. As soon as we're done with Fallout New Vegas Survival, one episode a week of Skyrim, and then, like, running something else a bit different, like, on each Saturday, which possibly next will be Red Dead Redemption. Might be Red Dead Redemption. Again, I was thinking that, like, Skyrim might have that slot, but I'm genuinely not sure if I want to wait as long as it's going to take to finish up Mass Effect 2. Because Mass Effect 2 had quite a bit of bloody DLC. I might skip Overlord. I've never been that keen on Overlord. I don't think it's, like, that interesting. So maybe I'll just kind of finish up the main game and then do, like, Shadow Broker and Arrival. I might do Arrival last, actually. It kind of feels appropriate for Arrival to be last, given it kind of feels like the one that most logically leads directly into Mass Effect 3. So yeah, maybe, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, Dishonored did way better than I was expecting. Like, I was expecting the first part of Dishonored to do all right, and then, like, you know, the second and third parts to tail off really quickly. But no, Dishonored as a series has done really, really well, which is great. So, which is a good sign, because obviously, you know, we'll be doing some Dishonored 2 when that comes out as well. So that's really nice for that as well. And a couple of other things have surprised me, actually. My Summer Car. I kind of knew My Summer Car was a good video. I thought it was a really good video, actually. I thought it was a fantastic video. But it's one of those ones where, like, just because you think it's a good video doesn't mean anyone watched it. Like, Resident Evil 1 that I did on Halloween, nobody watched that. That was such an underwatched video. I don't even know why. Because, like, that's, you know, a big, well-known game. It was a one-off video. It was a special tied to the day it was on. And, like, I think it's a game that most people generally regard fairly well and everyone's heard of. And that got so few views. I genuinely don't know. And I thought that was a pretty good video. Like, and that's kind of, you know, if I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll do the rest of that. Maybe, you know, if that does well, that'll lead into parts 2 and 3, and we'll do the rest of the original Resident Evil, the remaster. Nope, that idea went straight in the bin. Actually, it makes me kind of worried, because, like, at some point I would have liked to have done, like, a Resident Evil Code Veronica series. But that original Resident Evil episode did so poorly. And looking back, Resident Evil 6 didn't do great. So, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. That just did not work out particularly well. I may have to give Resident Evil 4 a look sometimes. Just kind of do Resident Evil 4 as like a one-off, just to kind of try and figure out how much interest there is, because I'd love to do a Resident Evil 4 series, but like, if the first episode's going to do as poorly as that Resident Evil 1 video, and then, you know, the viewership's going to naturally drop off, as it does in any series. Though admittedly, as I say, the nice thing about Dishonored is it weirdly didn't drop off anywhere near as much as I was expecting, which was great. Same as Skyrim. Both of those have done wonderfully well. But yeah, factor in the potential drop-off. If the first episode of Resident Evil 4 doesn't go well, that will be a really, really underwatched series, which would be a terrible shame. Maybe I should just focus on the Hitman franchise, because like Hitman's weird. Hitman gets more views than I think it deserves, and sometimes like that's just how the channel operates. Like sometimes series that I don't think are my best work do really, really well, and stuff that I think is really, really solid doesn't actually do as well at all. Like, you know, the elusive target stuff, I think I do a pretty solid job, but they're not the most interesting things in the world. Like, I can only do so much with them because they're quite small, but like, you know, when I put those videos out, they tend to do really, really well. Like, if you search for Hitman, like, Colorado, Hitman Sapienza, Hitman Marrakesh, Hitman any of the levels, like, I think we, like, rank #1 on most or all of them, so I assume we get quite a few views and subscribers for that. I think we've just, like, got a little quiet, not desperately vocal minority of people who are really into the Hitman stuff, so I should probably do, like, a full series on, like, the Contracts. I've got the remastered version. I've got the remastered version of Hitman 2 and Contracts. I always preferred Hitman 2 to Contracts personally, so maybe like on Saturday at some point, I'll do like a Hitman 2 series and do like, you know, 1 or 2, maybe 2 or 3 missions per episode, because they're generally quite short, because like there's 20 missions in Hitman 2 Silent Assassin, and they're not the longest missions. Some of them are very, very small indeed. Like, they felt a bit longer, because back then 47 moved really slowly. Movement speed was really slow in the old Hitman, because like if you ran and you were seen running, that would make guard suspicion meters go wild, so you had to basically like walk and crawl everywhere. And that meant as a result, like, even small levels took quite a long time to kind of navigate around. So yeah, maybe the game kind of like felt a little bit bigger than it actually was. Actually, if you could move around at the pace you can in modern Hitman, you'd like complete those levels in seconds. It would be very, very easy. But back then, you know, Hitman couldn't really take cover, and you couldn't run, and you couldn't like, you know, jump from cover to cover or anything like that. So, you know, the game was a lot slower. We'll see. Those are kind of all options. Civ 6 has done really well as well, actually. That's been another kind of factor for why this last month's been really, really solid. Civ 6 has done really solidly as a series, which is great, because I love it when those things work. Unfortunately, all the new releases has left me in this odd situation where some new releases have just kind of like been left by the wayside slightly. Like, a few people have asked after like Batman the Telltale series episode 3. I've actually played it and already recorded it. I just don't really have a slot to release it. So right now it's scheduled to go out in about like 2 weeks from now, which is really, really late. I'm really not sure about that. Like, I'm enjoying the craziness, because in episode 3 there's a really ridiculous, crazy, stupid twist. Like, I told Matt at one point over like a Twitter DM, have you played this yet? Like, there's a stupid twist in episode 3. And he was like, I don't know if I'm going to bother. So just play episode 3, because there's the most stupid twist in it. And, like, I knew when he'd actually played it, because he immediately DM'd me back with just like, you know, details of the twist in all caps, followed by some outrage. It's really out of flipping nowhere, but I kind of like the fact that it comes out of flipping nowhere, because it keeps me guessing and it keeps things interesting. So, you know, Batman episode 3's out there. I've already recorded the Hitman Elusive Target, the one that's in Bangkok, and I don't know when that's going to be released, probably next week, I think. I've actually recorded some Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2's great, or at least the campaign is. I didn't touch the multiplayer, but the campaign's really good. That's a video, I think, next Tuesday or something. And then there's a bunch of indies I want to look at as well. Like, I found, like, this really fun-looking golf VR game. And I was just thinking, yeah, if any sport is going to work in VR, golf would be a perfect candidate for VR. So yeah, can't wait to look at that. I've got hold of an early version of Expeditions Viking, which you may recall, if you've got a very good memory, I kind of flagged in my EGX Rezzed video. And then at some point we've also got to get to Planet Coaster. That'll come out, and hopefully we'll be able to give that a view early on. Watch Dogs 2, I really enjoyed Watch Dogs 1. I think Watch Dogs 2 looks really good. So aside from the fact they're doing a lot of BS related to like the season pass and whatever, that'll be coming as soon as I can get my hands on it. Ubisoft are really unreliable for providing review code though. Sometimes they provide review code early, sometimes it's last minute, sometimes they don't do it at all. They're very inconsistent, so we'll have to see about that. And then, yeah, in about a week or two, Civilization 6 will be wrapping up. And I'm thinking, no promises, but I'm thinking after we've done that, the next kind of strategy game Tuesday and Thursday thing, I'm not going to do Stellaris again yet, because I've heard, like, 1.3 still has some issues that are being worked out, and they're still kind of patching it and making it all work and making it a really solid experience. I'm kind of more interested in seeing, like, the next set of proposed expansions, or not really expansions, but like updates for it, because they laid out what they wanted to do in 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, and right now they haven't really kind of laid out a clear roadmap for 1.4 through to 1.6, or maybe they'll go over to 2.1, I don't know. But whatever they plan to do next, I'd like to see like a little roadmap from the Stellaris team before I make a decision when or if I'm going to go back to Stellaris. And that means what I'm thinking might be next for that slot could be Rome Total War, a proper series of Rome Total War, because I know that game really, really bloody well. In fact, I've put more hours into that game than any other game. I've not played any game more than that. More than Fallout New Vegas, easily. More than Pokemon, easily. And like probably the Pokemon game I've got the most hours in was the original Diamond, where I think I've got like 400 hours clocked or something. But like Rome Total War, I can't calculate how many hours it is, because like I had the CD version long before I had Steam, so I played it for many, many hours on that over many years. But like, I would estimate I've put over 1,000 hours into Rome Total War. I really know how to do that game, so I'd love to do just like a really detailed series for like how you completely take apart the computer and like do like a ridiculously powerful good start to the game, and maybe like go through to, I'm not sure if I'd necessarily do like a full conquest, because like once you've got your economy rolling and you've got like a really good military and you're miles ahead of your kind of Roman allies, like at that point the game kind of quietens down a little bit and it becomes a little repetitive, and it's quite satisfying to just like roll over barbarians and whatever. But like once you've got up to a certain critical mass of strength in Rome Total War, like there's not really a massive kind of amount the mid game can throw at you until the civil war at the end of the game when you take out the other Romans. But again, if you play the game smartly, you can kind of sabotage them, and I kind of want to go into that a little bit. So I'm thinking of doing like a Rome Total War series. That's probably what's going to be next. I mean, last time I did Rome Total War, people were really, really excited for that. And then possibly that would lead into me actually doing a Rome 2 Total War and kind of comparing the two side by side. Because I've never played Rome 2 Total War. I own the Emperor Edition, but I've never actually played it. It's never got around to it. So I wouldn't mind actually kind of going back and kind of doing one and then the other. I'm not sure whether I'll do them back to back or not. I'd need to kind of have a think about that. But that's kind of vaguely where I'm thinking of going next. Anyway, more importantly than all this game and planning news is, of course, Tabby. You may recall I mentioned last Patroncast, Tabby has not been well. She's still not 100%, but we were getting a bit worried about it. She's had some stomach trouble, so we took her to the vet and had like a full series of blood and urine tests done, and they all came back clean. So like all of the big serious things that could be going wrong with her, like kidney failure or whatever, it's definitely not any of that. So we're just kind of keeping an eye on her, and we'll just kind of, see how she's getting on. Hopefully she's just picked up like a little stomach virus and will just work its way through her system. But yeah, a month on, she's still not quite perfect, but we've had her thoroughly checked out by a vet, and as far as we can tell, nothing's wrong, so a little bit worried for her, but hopefully everything's okay. Anyway, over to the questions for this month. Tons of questions this month. Thank you all so very, very much. Will you play Wasted on the channel? I think I saw Dan of Nerdcube play that. Like, if I do that, it would be like a one-off thing. It definitely doesn't feel like a series thing. Like, it felt a bit gimmicky to me, but then maybe I'm just being unfair because it's kind of built around that joke of looking for beer and, Wasted versus Wasteland and whatever. I'm probably being a little bit unfair to it. I will probably do a one-off on it at some point, but, like, it will probably be in the new year just because of all the stuff that needs to be got on with before the end of the year. Yeah, as I was saying, there's still a lot of stuff to come out. Since you enjoy Mass Effect, have you thought about playing the sister series of Dragon Age? Yes, I do own Origin. I think I own the... Do I own the whole series? I might just own Origin. But, like, I have considered it. But the thing is, like, anything like that, and the same as The Witcher, like, when you start doing that, it's a big commitment, because these are big, big games. Lots and lots of hours. So, like, you have to be pretty confident you want to do that. I'm tempted, like, as a series, in terms of, like, the big fantasy trilogies I haven't looked at before. Because I've never played... Well, actually, okay, that's a lie. I've played, like, Dragon Age for, like, a couple of hours on the 360. It just didn't really hook me, but I didn't really get far enough in it to kind of for it to grip me, really. So, like, it's just, like, the opening just didn't quite catch me, and I never went back to it. But I only played it for a couple of hours, and I've forgotten most of that already. Like, I'm thinking of doing just, like, a few parts on Witcher 1, and then jumping forward to Witcher 2 for a few parts, then jumping forward to Witcher 3 for a few parts in the new year, and doing something like that for the Witcher series, and the Risen series, and maybe the Dragon Age series. But Dragon Age, just because of its relationship with Mass Effect, as you say, like, I think that maybe will be a Saturday series, but if so, there might be a few Saturday series down the line. So maybe, but a little way off. How many emails, tweets, etc. do you get per day, week, month? Oh, blimey. Emails... Let me have a think about this. How many emails do I actually get a day? Like, ignoring comment notifications, because I check the comments by going into the comments section at the back end of YouTube, so I don't really read those. It's not a huge amount of emails. It's probably not more than like 50 emails a day or something from various sources. It's more about the comments. The tweets I can stay on top of just by just occasionally checking my notifications. They're like, it's not unusual for me to just leave my Twitter feed open, come back like after recording for a couple of hours, and there's over 100 notifications. But most of them are favourites, so I can just skim through them pretty quickly. It's more about the number of comments. I'm literally just opening up my analytics in front of me at the moment. So let's say for the last 30 days, how many comments have there been? Just over 10,000. There have been just over 10,000 comments in the last 30 days, and I do try and keep on top of all of them. I will likely miss some, especially because of the way comments get threaded and the way that Google reports those threaded comments to me. They kind of get buried under the original comment in the little comment section, which I check at the back end of YouTube. So in threaded comments, I will sometimes kind of probably miss replies, but like generally I should be seeing the vast majority of comments still. But that's the biggest thing. It's just keeping on top of 10,000 comments. Next to that, keeping on top of like Reddit posts and tweets is pretty simple. Do you expect or hope the next season of Hitman will introduce new mechanics such as targets realising you're tailing them, NPCs being more suspicious of your behaviour, etc.? Do you think they'll use the exact same system? Honestly, I would expect them to keep things broadly as they are. I don't think it would be particularly difficult to make some small changes that would make the game kind of a lot more realistic. So for example, if you're following a particular character around for an extended period of time, if you're like within a certain distance radius of an NPC for a certain number of seconds, then at that point they start noticing you. And if you're like, a certain further period of time, if you're still standing within a certain range of them, then they actually turn around and face you and challenge you about it and give you an opportunity to back off. It makes sense to me that would be the case, and it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to program, because all you'd need to do would just be, is the player character within a certain range or within line of sight of a particular character they're following for a certain period of time, and is it likely at some point, therefore, that the NPC would look around and happen to see the same person was following them? It doesn't strike me as that hard to implement. I'd like to see something like that. To be honest, I mainly expect Hitman 2 to just be pretty much Hitman 1, but with 6 new levels. I don't expect major overhauls. I'm planning to go and visit London next summer. Are there any good pubs I should stop by? Honestly, I'm not a big pub person. Like, I do occasionally go to a bar with my friends, but we're not big going out to pub people. We're more about going around to each other's houses and playing board games and stuff like that, and just kind of hanging out and watching DVDs and whatever, because we're massive nerds in that way. And what I will say is, if you're going to London, like, there's not really much to avoid specifically. I'd say, like, the museums are the big thing, because the museums and the art galleries are all free, and they are absolutely fantastic, so definitely for those. Do you want a recipe for raspberry jalapeno jam? Personally, no, I'm not sure that would work. However, someone replied saying they do, so please put it down in the comments, because at least one person wants that recipe. Is your income affected at all if you skip a YouTube ad after 5 seconds instead of watching the whole thing? Yes, but you shouldn't let that affect your way of thinking, because, like, the entire, like, the earnings and the anticipated CPM and all of that, like, thousands of people are constantly making small decisions. Like, when you get like 100,000 views in a day, there'll be loads of people who are just skipping ads, and there'll be loads of people who just kind of happen to see, say a trailer for a film or whatever, an ad they actually do want to watch. Like, for the most part, in its current form, it works, and it works in a very kind of big macro level. So, like, as an individual person, you do not need to worry, ever, about whether you're kind of skipping an ad or not. Because, like, just occasionally, you will probably see, say, a trailer for a film you want to see, and at that point, you'll just organically choose to watch that ad, and that's 100% fine. Like, you definitely don't need to sit through ads just for the sake of it. And people who are on Patreon most certainly do not. Because people who are on Patreon, like, you are definitely donating more than you would ever be able to generate, even if you sat through every single ad for every single video I put out in a month. If you're on Patreon, you're already contributing more than you would ever be able to generate. So seriously, don't worry. I've always said, people on Patreon, use ad block with my blessing. You go right ahead. Are there any genres of games or games in a genre that you expected to really like, but for some reason didn't? Like Undertale. Well, Undertale was a weird one, because I was never sure, like, I never quite got the appeal of Undertale. I always thought it looked a little bit odd, and like, I appreciate it's got an amazing soundtrack, and I love parts of the script, but like the core gameplay, aside from just like, the exploration and the RPG elements, is kind of it's not really, it's kind of bullet hell, and I've never been keen on bullet hell. So like, I don't think I'll ever do like, say, like a 2D top-down shooter, like the old style that used to be very popular on the Super NES. I don't think I'd ever do anything like that. They're very rare these days. They show up occasionally, but like that sort of thing just isn't really my thing. But yeah, mostly sports games I don't think I'll be into because I just don't really understand sports. Like, I once played like a 1080... What was it? 1080 snowboarding? What was it? 1080 degree snowboarding? I can't remember what the full correct title was. Whatever the correct title for 1080 snowboarding on the N64 was. I really didn't get that game. Like, snowboarding games and snow games in general, I've never really got. Just like, you know, as a game, just like starting at the top of a mountain and then you're working your way down the mountain. I don't get them. I've never got them. I never really understood or liked SSX Tricky, even though I knew some people that said that was really, really good. That new, is it Ubisoft? I think it's their new game Steep, that like Dan thinks looks really exciting. I don't get that, and I think it looks really, really boring. So yeah, any game that involves me going down from the top of a mountain to the bottom on snow via some form of like skis or snowboard or whatever, I've never really got those, to be honest. With the announcement Vine is closing, a lot of people are losing their income they made via online platforms. It brought up a good point among YouTubers what to do if their platform ever went under. Do you have plans for this or any ways to transition your audience as just in case? Not really. Like, it's probably some way off if it happens. Like, nothing lasts forever these days. Like, I don't treat this as a job for life, but then I don't treat anything as a job for life anymore. The idea of a job for life is kind of old-fashioned. It predates my generation entirely. So, you know, the idea that this might just last for a few years and then maybe for whatever reason, maybe because, you know, watching gaming on YouTube goes out of fashion or YouTube goes out of fashion or I go out of fashion, one of those things might happen. So, you know, any time in some point in the next few years, that might happen. If that did happen, I'd have to make a decision, which is I'd have to look at how much of an active community I had left at that point, what I could do that they might like, and what they might be able to support me doing, and whether that would be workable and worthwhile for both of them and for me, or ultimately it'd be very likely to have to transition back in some capacity, part-time or full-time, into doing marketing work, which isn't like, you know, a terrible hardship or anything. I was good at marketing. I enjoyed my job. Like, well, enjoy is the wrong term, but like, I enjoyed it a lot more than a lot of people seem to enjoy their jobs. Sometimes it was bad and sometimes it was boring and sometimes it was frustrating, but I was pretty decent at it and I never found it massively stressful. So yeah, if I had to transition back into marketing if YouTube collapsed, then that is probably what I would do. Hopefully though, I would be able to transition into working in marketing within a game publisher. So I've made a lot of contacts in the industry and I'm continuing to do so over time. So I'm hoping those contacts might actually bear fruit in some capacity. If I ever had to give up the YouTube business, then potentially I could go and do marketing at a games publisher, which would be fun. How were you first introduced to Fallout and when did you first play New Vegas? This is an interesting story actually, which is I know that the original Fallout was installed on a computer when I was younger. I know it was there because it was actually on the desktop. But I do not remember ever installing it or ever playing it, and I'm the only person in my family that would have ever installed it. So at some point I installed the original Fallout and presumably played. This was like off a disc. This was in the days before Steam. So this was off a disc that I don't know where it even bloody came from, but I don't actually remember playing it, but I must have played it at some point, probably. But like the first Fallout game I actually played properly that I actually bloody remember playing was Fallout 3. Which I played on the 360. I think I've told this story before, which is I played it. Like, I got it, I think it was like on sale or something. And I just like, this was a disc version. I just kind of got from a game shop down the road. And I played it for like a couple of hours. And I found it very frustrating. And I didn't actually enjoy it that much because like a couple of things happened, which was like, you know, I killed the Overseer in Vault 101. Because, like, I, you know, assumed game style, he was, you know, an evil dick megalomaniac, and he'd threatened me, and he was calling for guards, so killing him was the right thing to do. And then Amateur, like, got up all in my face, yelling about what a monster I was and how I shouldn't have killed him. And I felt like that was a bit unreasonable. Then I left the vault and found my way to Megaton, and I'd kind of invested in, like, sneak, and I took, like, a rank of the thief perk, and I kept trying to, like, you know, sneak around and, like, steal people's stuff, but, like, they kept catching me, and then I stepped outside, and, like, the entire town shot me dead, and I found it very frustrating. Because Fallout 3 is not desperately new player friendly. It is actually, like, it's something that's easy to forget when you're kind of so familiar with the Fallout franchise as I am, that, like, you know, people go into it, and if they don't know some basics about just how Fallout operates, Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas can both be very, very frustrating experiences, unless you already know what to expect. Fallout 4, I think, to its credit, did a better job being new player
friendly. But then by odd coincidence, like I think like a year later after that, I like went back to it and I played it again, and I like kind of, you know, put a bit more time into it, a bit more thought into it. I think I'd read around it a little bit first, and a lot better time with it. And yeah, the love affair just spiraled from there. Though I don't know exactly when I played New Vegas for the first time. I think I got New Vegas pretty much as it came out, if I recall correctly, because at that point I put a few more hours into Fallout 3 and enjoyed them. So I'm pretty sure I got New Vegas soon after it came out, again on the 360 version, but I cannot for the life of me remember exactly when. As a content creator, what part of the job do you find the most difficult or stressful? It is the days when you have to do something for the same day. Like, I like doing things ahead of time, but when you, like, you know, for example, get sent review code for something at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and you want to get a video up for that same thing, like, in that evening, that's very, very stressful. You've just got to sit down, you've got to record it all. It has to be done in one take, so you don't have any do-overs, you don't have time to any do-overs. You've got to record it all in one go, then you've got to edit it all together and hope it, you know, forms up a good final video. You've got to render it, then you've got to upload it, and then you're kind of at the mercy of your internet as to whether your internet's going to behave or not. And then, like, after all of that, sometimes, just occasionally, those videos can, like, well, not exactly flop, but they can, like, you know, not do very well. Like, bear in mind, like, the Mafia 3 videos that I put together, that I actually had to go to flipping 2K's house to go and do. So that was, like, 2 train rides away. Then I had to edit them on a different day. So, you know, that whole thing, like, sucked up, like, probably at bare minimum a day and a half, and those videos did all right, but not spectacularly. So yeah, that can sometimes be the most frustrating, stressful thing, when like stuff that's like brand new, especially when the publishers are being funny about providing access to it, and you kind of have to really rush that stuff out. That's probably the most stressful bit. Have you been watching Black Mirror, specifically the older 15 million Merit and the newer Nosedive? Does the creeping gamification of reality worry you, or is it all too far-fetched? I've seen all of the old Black Mirrors, series 1 and 2, and they were like normal series on. Were they Channel 4? I think they were Channel 4, and the Christmas special as well. I haven't actually seen the new ones on, is it Netflix? We do have Netflix, but I haven't actually seen them yet. I just haven't got down to sitting down. Claire's out of town for a couple of days, actually, coming up this next week. Possibly I'll sit down and watch those there. I've never actually been desperately creeped out by gamification of reality, to be honest, because I'm occasionally something of a tech utopian, which is like, I actually like the idea of like taking ideas like gamification and applying them to boring real life processes. I mean, sure, there's kind of, you know, anything taken to a ridiculous extreme is creepy, but for the most part, I'm more of a tech utopian, so I don't get too creeped out by technology kind of creeping into places. Like, the only thing that does bug me is excessive smartphone use. It does bother me. There was one time, it wasn't actually at the current place where I think it was like at the last flat we lived in, where we had a bunch of friends over to play board games, and like at one point I looked up and like literally everyone but me, while we were going around the table, also had their smartphone out. They were looking at their smartphone and not talking to each other, engaging with each other, and I found that suddenly kind of slightly terrifying and nightmarish and dystopian. But for the most part, no, that sort of thing doesn't bother me. Most people have a dream game. What would yours be like, and would it appeal just to your wider audience? It would be Skies of Arcadia 2. Or it could just be a remade Skies of Arcadia with nicer graphics. Just remake Skies of Arcadia. That's it. I'm happy. I'm done. Oh, Skies of Arcadia was amazing. And they promised they were going to make 2, then it never bloody happened. Are you going to EGX Resd and EGX regularly now? Yes, I do seem to regularly get press passes for those, so I do imagine I will be at EGX Resd next spring and EGX next year as well, in probably September again, or whenever they decide to run it. What game system did you grow up with, and what was your favourite game in it? I inherited a ColecoVision from my sister, and the best game of that was Mousetrap, which was basically Pac-Man, except no one remembers Mousetrap and everyone remembers Pac-Man, which was a shame, because Mousetrap was better, because rather than just having ghosts wandering around in it, and, you know, having just going up to the power pill and then immediately turning into, like, whatever... Wait, what's Pac-Man called when he's turned into, like, Super Pac-Man? Whatever Super Pac-Man's actually called, I don't know. But you had, you gathered bones. You could actually store them and activate them when you wanted to, which was tactically useful. And you like pressed buttons to open and close sets of coloured gates, so you kind of move around the maze much more tactically. And sometimes there was like this hawk that flew over the top, and it could ignore the walls, but everything else had to kind of work within the walls. But other than that, it was kind of very similar to Pac-Man. Great game, marvellous game, and yet it never really went. I wonder if it exists, by the way. I wonder if, like, you know, Mousetrap thing, I wonder if it was ported anywhere. No, sadly it never made it into like a retro games compilation or anything. It was on the ColecoVision, and then it was ported to one of the Ataris. But other than that, as far as I can see, it was never actually brought forward in any capacity. That is a shame. Will we see M80N coasters and other merch, I guess, before Christmas? I need somewhere appropriate to place my eggnog. No, sorry, definitely not before Christmas. But I am hoping to in the early new year. I would like merch in the early new year. I would just like some basic stuff, just in the form of like hoodies, t-shirts, coasters, mugs, some basic stuff. I've always wanted a potato peeler. I don't know why, I just really want there to be a Many a True Nerd potato peeler. So there'll be at least one of those at some point, which will be nice. But yeah, I would like there to be, but there's no chance it's going to happen before Christmas, sorry. Hey John, first I'd just like to say I absolutely love the Resident Evil video you made and can't wait for more. Oh, now I feel bad about the bit I did about Resident Evil earlier. Yeah, sorry about that, not many people agreed. Also, would you recommend Stellaris for someone who's never played a game like that before? And if not, what would you recommend? Interesting. Stellaris, I think, is it's not desperately new player friendly, but I think I picked it up relatively quickly. It kind of depends on your tolerance. I always find the Total War games pretty new player friendly, to be honest. I said that Total War Warhammer I felt was pretty new player friendly, so maybe that perhaps? And what are my thoughts on the new Prey game? Honestly, I've not really been paying much attention to it yet. It's not a franchise I've got much emotional connection to, so honestly, I'm not fit to comment on it just yet. When, we get a bit more information, it gets a bit closer to the time, I will probably at that point put some opinions together. Do you ever go on holiday? Your output rate is ridiculous, and I know you mentioned in your Mafia 3 series that you don't like to fly. Do you ever take a week or two off in the countryside or something? No, honestly, I'm really bad at taking time off. It's something that both Claire and my family chastise me about a lot, and it's something I actually kind of have noticed a lot of YouTubers. It's true for. We're very bad at taking time off, which is, yeah, pretty much I work pretty much every day, every week, and then I work pretty much every week. I take Christmas Day off to go and hang out with my family. I'm trying to remember the last day I didn't do some form of work on, and I honestly don't know when it was. I genuinely do not know. So I'm very bad at taking time off. Though me and Claire have said we will probably go on a little holiday at some point in spring next year. We haven't really decided exactly what or when or for how long. Probably not for a full week. I'm not sure I'm good at a full week's holiday. But at the bare minimum, a couple of days away from things might be nice, yes. Have I ever purchased or received a collector's edition, or whatever you want to call it, of a game? If so, what's been your favourite extra that comes as part of a set, soundtrack, statue, Pip-Boy? I never buy collector's editions. I've never been one for, gathering, statues or whatever. I've never seen the point of them. So, I'm trying to think if I've ever actually bought a collector's edition. Sometimes, I just get sent a collector's edition as part of just, as a review code. So I get, a bit of extra stuff there. But honestly, I'm trying to remember if I've ever even bought a collector's edition. I don't think I have. Even for Fallout 4, I didn't really have any interest in the Pip-Boy whatsoever. It's just that sort of stuff, physical merch that comes with a game doesn't interest me. I'm just interested in the game. So for the most part, as long as I've got the game, and ideally a version that comes with, the season pass, if I'm really into the game and I know I'm going to want all the DLC, then, that's good enough for me. For Skyrim, do you plan on trying out the mod Enderroll on PC? It's a complete conversion that addresses some of the concerns you brought up during your criticism of the original game. If I was going to do a big Skyrim series, I probably wouldn't mod it with a conversion mod, because I kind of like having a version of the game that other people can all play along with, and a version that other people are also going to be familiar with for the moment. So, I've looked at stuff like Enderroll and Requiem, and honestly, for the most part, I like some of the ideas in them, but I don't like other ideas. But if I'm doing a full series, what I really like is I like something that other people can play along with, and people who know the game well, even if they haven't played the mod, they can also kind of contribute and provide commentary and ideas in the comments. So I like having something that's accessible, and the problem with mods like that is it really limits the number of people who are capable of commenting fully on what's going on. So I like the idea of it, and but I wouldn't do a full series. If anything, I'd just do a one-off looking at it. But I probably wouldn't do a full series on Enderroll. Having played both Civ 5 and Stellaris, which would you suggest for new players of the genre? I have Civ 5 and all the DLC from a Steam sale, but Stellaris looks very entertaining, especially after watching you play the game. Interesting. Like I was saying earlier, Stellaris takes a little bit of a learning curve, and it's not hugely well tutorialized, or at least it wasn't when I played it. There might be more of a tutorial now, because of course they're releasing more stuff as they go along. In terms of Civ 5, I think I got into Civ 5 reasonably quickly. I personally find Civ 6 more streamlined than Civ 5. They simplified a few of the mechanics. There's still a lot of depth there. I'm not saying they dumbed it down in the slightest. I'm just saying that, some stuff, for example, how traders work, was streamlined between Civ 5 and Civ 6, which makes it a little new player friendly. I think Civ 5 is pretty easy to get into, to be honest. Though, one thing I did notice when I played Civ 5 is I played through the tutorials. The tutorials strike me as quite poor, because they don't really explain anything. They just provide you with, little maps to play on, but they don't really explain things very well. The little kind of tooltips that pop up aren't actually that helpful. But Stellaris doesn't have that many tooltips at all. Stellaris is probably simpler than Civ 5. Civ 5's got a lot of complex mathematics going on in the background, and Stellaris does too, but I think it impacts the game a lot less. I think you can have... It's probably just a matter of preference for aesthetic. Like, if you enjoy the idea of, like, you know, watching a human society rise up from nothing to become a modern society, then you'll like Civ 5 better. If you're more into, like, sci-fi and watching a brave new Star Trek-y frontier emerge out as humanity reaches across the stars, you'll probably like Stellaris better. Both of them definitely have pros and cons. It's probably just about, like, genre preference more than actual gameplay. John, what is the most overpowered build, Fallout 4 Melee or Skyrim Stealth Archer? It's definitely Fallout 4 Melee, because Skyrim Stealth Archer may just be like the easiest way to play the game and what a lot of people just kind of default to, but it definitely can't kill anything in one go. Just like, you know, if you're playing on the high difficulties, if you're into, like, say, you know, a really high level one of the Dragon Priests, for example, like, an Archer's going to struggle in that sort of environment, and there will be times when you're just going up against a really tanky enemy where just, like, you know, the bow is going to cut it on its own, so you need to have a backup to go to. Whereas Fallout 4 Melee, I don't think I ever found anything in the game that could realistically stand up to a well-spec'd melee character. So Fallout 4 Melee is way more powerful than Skyrim Stealth Archer, and honestly, I feel like there would need to be some rebalancing done with Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is actually a game I would consider doing a kind of modded series for. Fallout 4 is actually a game I would consider creating a mod for. When I say creating a mod, I mean, like, you know, with someone who knows what they're doing help. To actually just kind of do my own personal rebalance mod to come up with what I think will be a more balanced game experience for people who have a big fondness for how some things worked back in Fallout 3 in New Vegas. I've been thinking about doing something like that. Like, it's very kind of early days, but I would like to do something like that. John, a while back you said you were doing a video on what you thought was the greatest Star Wars game ever made, but then there wasn't a video. Yes indeed. And actually, this is probably a good time because as anyone who follows me on Twitter might be aware unless you missed it. I was recently at the London Gaming Market and I happened to buy a bunch of Star Wars games. I found an N64 copy of Star Wars Episode 1 Race Up. Bloody hell, I've been looking for one of those for bloody ages. And I got Star Wars Bounty Hunter and Star Wars Rogue Leader, the original one, Rogue Squadron 2, not the terrible Rebel Strike, for GameCube. And I used to own Rogue Leader. I'm not sure where it went, but it's not in my collection, so maybe I sold it at some point. That was a terrible decision if so. So I've got that back again. So, like, with those and a couple of other Star Wars games I want to actually look at, I'm thinking of doing, like, a Star Wars week in the new year where I play a different Star Wars game every day. So that video will probably happen then. On a similar note, someone's actually saying, did I ever play X-Wing TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, that series? No, I never played that series, I'm afraid. I think they're all still available on Steam, if I recall correctly. They might have been recently ported, in fact. So at some point, I may well give them a look. And on the topic of Skyrim, someone pointed out, yes indeed, that you are not the only person to point this out, in fact. Various people saying, hey, I don't think you should do a Legendary run. I agree, I did some research, I've had a lot of people, in fact, actually, people who know Skyrim really well, basically, a lot of them seem to agree, Legendary's not that good, because Legendary just increases the tankiness of enemies. So yeah, what I'm thinking possibly is doing more of, like, maybe just master difficulty, and then just ruling out bows, and then kind of doing a bit of a mixed magic one-handedy sort. I'm not really sure. If I'm not going to be going for a serious crippling handicap, then I'm probably happy just doing it on Master rather than Legendary. Master's still pretty difficult and a lot more difficult than Adept, but I do agree, Legendary doesn't really add anything aside from just ridiculous tankiness, which I can definitely do without. Would I ever consider playing Stardew Valley? As a one-off, possibly. I'm not sure it's necessarily my thing, though. Like, I've never been desperately keen on, like, the Harvest Moon franchise. I like things like building a base on Mars, and I like things like building a city in SimCity 4. But then equally, I absolutely despise The Sims. I've never got to The Sims. Claire loves The Sims. I just do not understand it. So at some point I'll need to try and figure out why I love some kind of strategy simulation-y games but not others. Yeah, I might do it as a one-off, but it definitely wouldn't be a series. I'm not convinced it would necessarily be my thing. What's my opinion on old games on the channel? I like old nostalgia games. I think they're fine as an occasional one-off, but like, before a certain point, like, you're alienating too many people. Like, if I play something that, like, everyone knows about that came out, like, in the previous generation, like Dishonored, that kind of, you know, attracts a lot of attention. If I do something that was, like, the GameCube era, then quite a lot of people have heard of that. If I go into, like, N64 and earlier into Super NES, then there will actually be a not insignificant proportion of the audience who might kind of see what I think is a well-known N64 game and have no idea what it is if it was never, like, ported forward to the Wii, for example. So, like, if you go too far back, you're certainly you're kind of creating a video that potentially isn't of any interest to a certain group of individuals because, the game can't be bought now and they don't know what it is. So there's not very much point in them watching the video, I guess. Unless just, happen to enjoy watching me play things, which, certainly a few people do. I think it's good as an occasional thing, but I probably try to avoid doing it too much. What's the story with having the radio on in Fallout 4? It seemed okay to have it on in New Vegas, You Only Live Once. Oh, you think so? Oh, you think so, but it wasn't. I had multiple videos that were flagged the moment they were uploaded, and I had to pull them back down, re-edit them to remove a little clip of radio footage, and then put them back up again. You may notice, for example, in one of the episodes of New Vegas, You Only Live Once, there is a section, which, and a couple of people noticed in the comments, where the in-game audio just goes literally silent. It's when I'm in a tunnel at some point, and a couple of people pointed out in the comment. And the reason is because Big Iron was on the radio, and that got flagged, picked up, and the video therefore could not be viewed in Germany. And we've got subscribers in Germany, so therefore I had to pull down the video and make the changes. So yes, YouTube's Content ID system did catch me out occasionally on New Vegas, and it became such a faff that in the end I just started having the radio off on principle. Would I consider doing Nuke World via Open Season if and when I do a You Only Live Once or a Fallout 4? Open Season is too risky for You Only Live Once, but I will at some point do Open Season. Yes, in fact, wait, didn't I already do Open Season? Yes, actually, I think I already did Open Season No Guns. Okay, sorry, in that case, the answer to the question is no. I wouldn't do Open Season in You Only Live Once. It's just too dangerous. Do frequent or repeated questions to play or make a full series of a game ever annoy you, specifically after you've explained in multiple comments videos why a video series won't happen ever / in the near future? Does it annoy you? No, not really. It's mildly frustrating, but you can't let it get to you, because when you've got a community of over 200,000 people that is constantly not only growing, but also older people are constantly dropping out. And right now, we're in a good position because we are gaining people at a faster rate than people are dropping out. So we're making a net gain constantly on a daily basis, which is a nice position to be in. But as a result, there's always new people coming in who have never seen that question before and would have no reason to know that. So, I try and have patience with it, and the community is relatively well self-policing, which is on a regular basis. I'll see people if it's a very familiar question, why'd you do this? Why haven't you done this? Very often, you should do this when I've already done this. And the community will do a very good job of actually replying to those comments before I even see them, saying, he already did, here, look over here. Or just, search for this, you will find it, which is very, very useful. Did you ever play Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion? No, I never played any Elder Scrolls game before Skyrim. Actually, I think I might have played an hour of Oblivion at some point, but I barely remember it. I might go back and look at Oblivion at some point, but I think I'd probably need to do a bit of heavy modding to it first, because just to make it look a little bit more presentable for the current age. But no, I've never played Morrowind or Oblivion. I've never put any significant time into either of those. At some point I might, but equally I understand there's some fan projects going on to actually remake Oblivion and Morrowind in more modern engines. So possibly I'll just wait for those to come out if they haven't already. For a Fallout 4 survival build, would it be practical to use unarmed or big guns? Yes. In fact, the two of them would actually go together quite nicely, both unarmed and big guns as a backup, or vice versa. Because I'm not saying that unarmed doesn't work. Unarmed is actually very, very powerful. In fact, unarmed is probably more powerful than melee, because basically all things that boost melee will also be boosting unarmed. But unarmed, you can also put bonuses on your power armor fists, or just your arm pieces of your armor in general to give yourself more unarmed damage, and that applies exclusively to unarmed, not to melee. So unarmed is even more powerful than melee if you kind of get lucky with the drops, again instigating unarmed weapon of some description. So absolutely, totally, it does work. It's very, very powerful. I don't think it makes particularly good viewing, because you only have a small number of weapons you'll be using over and over again. So I prefer the variety you get out of melee and the higher chance of actually getting decent legendary drops, because you're very unlikely to get a legendary unarmed drop, just because there's such a high number of guns and melee weapons. But if you're not recording it, then yes, it's entirely practical. I just think it might get a bit samey. Big guns, I think, is fine. In fact, big guns, especially if you get lucky with the drops, can be ludicrously powerful. And there's some decent big gun drops already in the game. There's the, the Ash Maker, the burn damage minigun. That's pretty damn solid. What's your favourite flavour of digestive biscuit? Just digestive biscuits. They're just digestive biscuits. What are you talking about? Just a basic McVitie's digestive biscuit. What are you, mad? Will the recent hike in tea prices cause a revolt across Britain? Probably not, but it is going to start becoming a serious political issue at some point if, large amounts of food items either go missing off the shelves or suddenly get more expensive, which is extremely likely to happen because, inflation is inevitably going to go into overdrive next year as a response to incredibly weak sterling. So, yeah, it is going to become a major political problem at some point, and there's not really much of a solution to it. Politicians basically just going to have to shrug their shoulders and say, sorry, nothing we can do. Because, wage growth in Britain has always historically, for like the past decade, been very, very poor indeed. It's unlikely to pick up anytime soon, and now inflation is going to go up. So, yay! Increases in the price of food, that's going to go down well. What did you like most about studying classics? What parts were your favourites, and what were your least favourites? There wasn't really anything that was the least favourite part about studying classics, to be honest. Like, it was a nice thing to study, and I studied it in a very nice environment. The thing I enjoyed about it was the fact I was good at it. Like, I don't think there's anything in my life that I've ever looked at and just thought, I am as much of an expert at this as I was at classics. And when I did specifically Hellenic literature, and I really doubled down on Greek theatre, and specifically comic Greek theatre, like, I knew that stuff so well. I was like an expert on it to such a degree that, like, compared to anything I did before, anything I've done since, like, I don't think I've known anything as well as I knew that stuff. So I loved the feeling of being an expert at something. It's not a thing to be very fond of, I suppose, but yeah, that was a nice feeling. I did enjoy that immensely. Did you finish up Event Zero? I believe I finished up on the channel, didn't I? There was only a part 1 and part 2. It was literally only 2 parts. It was not a long game, and they're both on the channel, so do go and look those up. Since you have a lovely British accent, could you please say the opening line from the Call of Duty 4 intro? Yes, I will gladly read this line for you. 50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town. There you go. Have you done any more research into lapel mics and pocket audio recorders for when you're doing VR games, or are you happy with your current setup? I'm not happy with my current setup. I am planning to get one of those in the new year, yes. Oh, and did you get around to doing the Mass Effect Andromeda audio edition? No, I completely forgot. I read the scripts, and the one that wasn't the mercenary, the other one, was he a reporter? I can't remember what he was now. Whichever the one that wasn't a mercenary, I actually thought I could have done a good job with that, but no, I completely forgot to record it because I was busy. Will you ever play Long Live the Queen? Interesting one. Long Live the Queen I'm familiar with, or at least, right, I have not played it before, but I know roughly what it's about, and it's been recommended to me. The thing about visual novels is, I think they work well when they're really small, crazy ones, because then they can be really short series, like Cat President was, and what was Fading Hearts? Was that like 6 parts, I think, total? Cat President, 3 parts, Panzermädels, only 2 parts. I like them when they're that short and I can just get through them. Like, I think what Nicole taught me was they shouldn't be allowed to go on too long, because for most people the novelty wears off after a couple of parts. So let me give you an example. So Cat President, A More Perfect Union, so the first part of Cat President, got about 44,000 views. That's really high, that's really good. It's a fun novelty, it's an interesting, weird idea. People are interested. Part 2 got about 17,000 views, and then Part 3 got about 13,000 views. So, like, even by the standards of a series, that was a huge amount of drop-off. So, like, people find visual novels to be, like, an interesting gimmick, and they find them, like, so fun and weird and different. They're in, like, they're interested in, like, trying them out. So, Panzermädels works a little bit better than that, for example. Oh, wow, Panzermädels was even better than I thought. Yeah, Panzermädels, 83,000 views on the first part, and then 60,000 views on the second part. I assume that means we're probably ranking on Panzermädels. Yes, we are indeed. We're the #1 video in the world. If you search for Panzermädels, we do indeed rank #1 on that. Lovely. But the closest thing we've ever had to, like, a full extended long dating simulator was Nicole. Nicole, where the first part, and this was a long time ago in the channel's history, so it's actually quite good it did this well. So Nicole, the dating and mystery simulator, started off its first part, got 33,000 views, but by the time that series got up to, say, part 15, that was up to 7,500 views per part. So that had basically dropped all of its audiences. The dating simulators drop a huge amount of their audience almost immediately. So, like, I think Long Live the Queen is just simply too long for me to do much with, unfortunately. If I ever did it, it would just be like as a one-off, but then I wouldn't actually kind of go through the whole game. Instead, I'm probably more interested in like the short, really insane ones. Do I still play any portable games? Only the classics, really. Like, I occasionally just like play like the older Pokemon games I know really well, and Advance Wars on the GBA, and also on the DS, but no one really talks about the DS Advance Wars games. It's all about the Advance Wars 2, damn it. Advance Wars 2 is the height of the series. But for the most part, I don't do that very often. As you kind of said in your question, for the most part, the only games I play these days are the ones I actually record for the channel. Will I be playing Hello Neighbor? Interesting fact, actually. I was sent early access code for that one by the publishers. I wasn't really planning to. It's just not my thing because, like, I had to look at the state it was in, and it looks like it's not really done yet. Like, for those of you who don't know, this is basically like you break into someone's house and you have to, like, do a bunch of stuff in the house to ultimately break your way into the basement because it's quite a big house. But the thing is, like, I've been told, like, the basement isn't done yet. So just, like, if you get through the basement door, that's just the end of the game because there's nothing in the basement yet. So there's not really, like, a conclusion to it. And it is... I wouldn't exactly call it jump scares, but basically you're just running around the house and the owner of the house is hunting you down, and, you know, whenever the owner of the house, like, catches sight of you, there's a great big kind of dramatic boom noise saying, oh no, and then suddenly there's dramatic music and you have to sprint away from him. And it's kind of, it's not really jump scares, but it's close enough to jump scares. I don't think there's much I can do with it, to be honest, because, like, you know, it's very tense and you're running around constantly and just kind of reacting to things and just tinkering with things. I don't think I could do a desperately good job commentating it, and I don't find it desperately interesting, I don't think. Because I don't generally do jump scare games, like, unless there's always something really, really interesting. Like, for example, Left Hand Path on VR was worth looking at, because a horror VR game is such a, like, it's so perfectly what the Vive is for, I had to give it a look. But, like, I don't think that Hello Neighbour is necessarily going to make a good video. Like, maybe I'll give it a look at some point, but it won't be a priority, I'm afraid. Do I have a private Reddit account, and if so, what are my favourite subs? I don't. I just use my my Many a True Dead Reddit account for everything. And honestly, I don't have, like, any, like, desperately interesting subs. Like, I like hanging around on the Let's Play subreddit because I like trying to give advice to the young channels. But other than that, I just kind of hang around on, like, some of the default subs occasionally, just having a little loopsy round, and just kind of trust Best of to point me to anything particularly interesting. When do you plan to do another community playdate? Ooh, I don't know. Sorry, it has been a while there. I do apologise for that. I will definitely make time for one very, very early on in the new year. Kill, marry, bang, Ashley, Jack, Miranda. That's not even hard. Kill Ashley, obviously. Bang Jack, because that would be quite an experience, and marry Miranda, because even though she's a little bit kind of flighty and potentially very manipulative, her heart's roughly in the right place, and she comes across as fairly, you know, together. So yeah, that's a very easy one, in fact. Is there anything special planned for Christmas time? Yes, actually, I had a really interesting idea for Christmas, which actually came out of one of the previous Patroncast. A question gave me a really good idea for a Christmas video. I don't want to say what it is, because I want it to be kind of a bit of a surprise. I think it's a fun, interesting way to do a Christmas video. But yes, I do actually have an idea for Christmas. What race am I planning to do next in Stellaris? Well, actually, you asked for Stellaris 1.3. I don't know if I'll necessarily do Stellaris 1.3. I'm going to wait to see what 1.4 to 1.6 hold first. But I was probably going to do humans, because, like, I know I'm really excited for, like, the Snailian, for example. The cute little snail alien they've introduced. It's adorable. But I'd rather, like, be able to run into one of those out in the galaxy. So I'd probably just go for humans for my second one, and then try and find some interesting aliens to go and meet. If given a choice, Canada, England, or Rome? Well, it depends what the choice is for. If it's, like, to live in, I'm probably pretty happy in England, unless England goes totally to hell in the next couple of years, which could very easily happen. To study, Rome. And Canada has a soft spot in my heart too, because as some of you know, I have a lot of Canadian family. So yes, they're all good. They're all absolutely fine. Don't make me choose. And finally, and most importantly of all, would I ever use a mod that turned those bloody Mr. Handys that shall not be named over in the galactic zone of Fallout 4 Nuka World and renamed them to Mr. Fizzies? Yes, because Mr. Fizzy is a word I can actually pronounce, so that would be much, much better. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That is the October kind of, sort of, nominally Patroncast. I'm hoping the next one will actually be a little bit better on time. Like, I know they, like, you know, they're always a bit late because that's just a running thing. But this one was late even by the standards of that, just because of all of the stuff I'm doing last minute at the moment. Like, seriously, last week's New Vegas episode was done the day before. I had to do, like, yesterday's part of Fallout 4 Survival. The day before that was done. Today I'm doing flipping Tyranny, like, the day before that goes out. It's just not a fun way to run things. So I'm hoping, once Dishonored 2 is out, there's a bit of a quieter period, because after that, then Planet Coast comes out, which is probably just like 1 or 2 videos for now. I'm not going to jump straight into a full series for that. And then there's kind of a week off when nothing gets launched, which is good. And then Watch Dogs 2 happens, which is great. And that's kind of all on its own. There's nothing else there. So that week, everything should stabilise, and that means we can do the next Patroncast much more calmly and on time, and won't that be lovely? So, that's coming up next week, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, if you'd like any more details, let me know in the comments beneath either the actual Patroncast post on Patreon itself, or down in the comments of the video. I will keep an eye on both and get back to you for sure. But in the meantime, I've been John, this has been Many a True Net, and thank you all so very, very much, because you're the guys that keep this whole crazy situation carrying on. Thank you very much, and goodbye.